Hello, I'm Shane M. Nygaard, and welcome to Mythic Currents. I'm an astrologer, archetype consultant, writer, and creator working at the meeting place of astrology, mythology, depth psychology, poetry, image, and soul. These may appear to be several different paths, but I have come to recognize them as expressions of the same current. My own path into this work began with archetypes. Carolyn Mace's Sacred Contracts gave me a language for recognizing the living patterns that move through a human life. And I later received my archetype consultant certification through her CMED Institute. That study opened the way towards Jungian work and the symbolic life of the psyche, and my years of involvement with the Minnesota Jung Association. Along the way, astrology entered the current and gave those archetypal patterns a cosmic form. I came to astrology because the symbols spoke. Over time, I learned to hear them beyond labels, personality types, and quick answers. I learned to hear them and perceive them as images. At the heart of my work is a principle I learned from Jung: stick with the image. When an image appears in a chart, a myth, a dream, a poem, or a life, I try not to rush past it into explanation. That tends to flatten it. I stay with it. I listen to it. I ask what it reveals when it is allowed to retain its depth, its mystery, and its own particular life. Saturn, Venus, Uranus, the Fates, Hermes, the mystic, the maverick. These are living images of psyche. They carry powers, patterns, callings, inheritances, contradictions, and possibilities. They show the way the soul turns toward life, the way it struggles with life, descends into life, and gradually reveals the shape of a life. For me, astrology is a symbolic language of incarnation. It asks, what image is trying to live through this life? What pattern keeps returning? What power is asking to be consciously lived? What gods and archetypal figures are moving through this chart, this moment? What story is the soul trying to tell? My work has been shaped by James Hillman, Carl Jung, Liz Green, Carolyn Mace, and by poets, artists, singers, designers, and myth makers whose work reminds us that the soul rarely speaks in direct sentences. Often, the soul speaks in images. A bird before it can fly, a thread in the hands of the three fates, a planet at the edge of the solar system, a descent into the depths of the eighth house, a voice seeking its ancestry and its ancestors, a mirror ball scattering light across a dark room, a chart asking to be read as myth. That is the territory I explore here. On this channel, you'll find videos about planets, signs, houses, transits, mythology, archetypes, and the symbolic imagination. I am less interested in offering another list of meanings than in staying with an image long enough for it to deepen. Like, what does Saturn reveal when gravity draws the bird toward the earth, when time gives weight to a life, and when form becomes the ground from which flight is possible. What does Uranus mean when we return to Oranos, the ancient Greek image of the starry sky? What happens when the eighth house becomes a field of relationship with the dead, inheritance, depth, and what remains unresolved? And what happens when Venus enters the chart as the power that draws us toward a person or an object, a work of art, or even a way of life? And through that attraction, reveals what the soul finds worth loving. These are the kinds of questions that guide my work. You'll also notice songs on here, and I create songs because astrology and mythology are worlds to be heard as well as contemplated. Sometimes an image needs an essay. Sometimes it needs a lecture. Sometimes it just needs music and a good hook. A song can carry what the speaking voice cannot quite hold. It can give an archetype atmosphere, let a myth breathe, and make an astrological image felt before it is completely understood. When I create songs about the fates or Saturn or Uranus, the raven or the winged world, I am following astrology into another form. Mythic Currents is a place for astrology with roots reaching deep into myth and branches opening toward the stars. It moves between the heights and the underworld, across the ancient and the modern, through poetry, art, music, and lived experience. It remembers the gods, listens to the image, and gives mystery room to speak its own voice. If you are drawn to astrology as a language of soul, if you sense that ancient myth still moves through modern life, and if you experience the chart as a living pattern asking to be entered, then I'm glad you're here. My work is an invitation to slow down, look again, and listen more deeply to the chart, to the myth, to the image, and to the soul as it speaks through all of them. Welcome to Mythic Currents.